It's time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Hey, Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birthday party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined this morning by Matthew Moreno, as well as my large cup of iced coffee over here as we break down the Dodgers releasing their NLDS roster. They've announced their rotation. We've got some news and notes on Will Smith, his availability, a surprise potential game one reliever as well. Matt, game day is here. How are we feeling over there?
Good. I was on with Greg and Marcus and Parker over on ESPN LA for their Blue Review Friday morning. Now here we are. This isn't nearly as early as that show, but had to be up early for the roster announcement because it's on East Coast time. I'm not a coffee person. I know I've shared this, but Jeff, you said you have your big cup of coffee. I might become one before, this playoff run is done.
Yeah. Dong asks, are Jeff and Matt the morning people of Dodger Blue? I think that's probably a safe bet. Daniel's usually in the mix. I would say the three of us most likely to be available in the morning.
I think so. Daniel's definitely up there. I know that he was out in Palm Springs last night for covering the Lakers game for us. Preseason, and Lakers obviously didn't play LeBron or Luka, but that was a rough one for him to be out there. But Daniel was taking care of some Lakers Nation stuff, so we weren't going to bother him early this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's get into the headline here, Matt, and it's very simple. We knew Kershaw and Bonda were going to be on the roster. Dave Roberts had told us that. The mystery we were trying to unfold on Sunday night on our show was who is coming off of the roster and would there be any other additions? The answer to the second question is no. Kershaw, Bonda, the only two new guys. The removals, I think, are going to surprise some people. Justin Robleski and Edgardo Enriquez off the roster. I joked with you. I'm claiming small victory over Anthony. I had Enriquez off my roster. He had Enriquez on. So a half a point victory, I think, to me, if my math is correct. And I was also willing to ask the question on Sunday night, are we sure that Emmett Sheehan and Justin Robleski are definitely going to be on this roster? We both decided the answer was yes, and we were wrong. So let's start with Robleski and Enriquez, because I think that's the story here. How surprised were you to see these two guys off of the NLDS roster?
My surprise lies more so with Robleski than Enriquez. I think, Enriquez, you guys touched on it. Everybody who's, joining us this morning and has been with us in our post-game shows after the games and all season long, obviously. But especially, with the wild card, you saw, throwing strikes has been a problem. And Enriquez was not immune to that. And so to think that, you're going to be adding Kershaw on as a reliever, Bonda is obviously a relief pitcher, the changes were, I think we'll get into the position player side. There's some surprise for me there, but Enriquez being one of the relievers that was going to have to come off, not surprising at all. The Robleski one does surprise me a little bit.
Yeah. You're adding two lefties in. So I think that's the argument for taking Robleski off is how many left-handers are you actually willing to carry on this roster? Especially when the top of the Phillies lineup, their best hitters do well against left-handed pitching. The bottom of the roster stinks against lefties. So you need guys for the bottom, but the top of the roster, the main guys, Schwarber, Harper, Trey Turner, two of those guys are better against lefties. And so carrying 5, 6 or whatever doesn't seem to make a ton of sense. I think in hindsight, when we were doing the breakdown, I was just like, are they really going to carry two fewer pitchers than they could? That was my math. It wasn't how many lefties. It was just take more relievers. How many position players are you actually going to need? What scenario is Alex Call going to get into a game? What scenario is Ha-Seong Kim going to get in a game other than as a pinch runner? Do you really need 3 catchers if Will Smith is available? Those were the types of questions. But in hindsight, Matt, and hindsight is literally 2020, they tell me, with the fact that there are days off after games 1, 2, and 4, and basically there's only one back-to-back in this 5-game series, it makes more sense to me now because I look at the Dodgers bullpen and I'm like, just pick the 3 or 4 guys you like whether it's Vesia, Roki, Trinan, and maybe one other name. Maybe it's Kershaw, maybe it's Bonda, maybe it's Sheehan, whoever. And you could pitch those guys every single game in the series, and they would only have to go back-to-back once. Obviously, you don't want to pitch them 5 times, but like from an actual health recovery perspective, you don't need a million relief pitchers because of days off.
Yes, in theory, but my pushback to that is we've seen the bullpen go. I mean, look, Emmett Sheehan was taken out of a 1-2 count on when Dave Roberts made that pitching change, and so to me, I am surprised that they're only going with 11 pitchers, and I guess 12 if you want to include Ohtani in that group. I thought maybe just carry one more from the standpoint of, and to your, whether it's lefty or righty, like just give yourself as many options as possible. Like, yes, there are the off days, there's this, that, and the other, but it's the playoffs. Like, who knows what things could happen? I know we're going to get into Ohtani, and he's built up at this point as a starting pitcher. This is also his first time pitching in the postseason, and he admitted during his press conference, which once we're done here, stick around to our shameless plug, stick around to our YouTube channel and check out all those videos that we have up. Ohtani said, like, he's probably going to have some nerves. So, what if he gets through 4 1/3 type thing, and now you're having to cover maybe a little bit more of the game than you anticipate. Yeah. So they are set up to do all of that. I just think like it probably wouldn't have hurt, from my opinion, to carry one more pitcher, whether it's Robleski, whether it's, you want to mix in somebody like Kasparius, who, doesn't necessarily seem to be on their radar. That being said, I think the fact that they didn't necessarily carry another pitcher is sort of an indictment on the organizational pitching depth as a whole, and all, Kasparius and Yates, obviously, and Kopech's hurt, but those types of guys, because there's nobody clearly knocking on the door saying, hey, I deserve to be on this roster. Because if you look at it, and I know we'll get into it, like, to me, Call, Dean, like that, there's a little bit of redundancy there. Yeah. So there was theoretically room to maybe add a 12th pitcher, another reliever, just because, like I said, for me, like, we've seen things kind of go haywire. Like the 8th inning of both games that the Dodgers just played got crazy. So like now you're playing a best of 5. You're playing the Phillies. As our friend Daniel would say, no disrespect to the Reds, but the Phillies are clearly a step up in opposition and competition. So yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised there.
Yeah, because Robleski is the reliever that would be pounding down the door to say, like, how am I not on this group? But I think your point about outside of him, I've been pounding the door for Ben Kasparius, and then he throws the live BP yesterday, and Fabian Narvaez like, he probably ain't going to be on this roster. I'm like, gosh dang it. So let's talk position players. Everybody is still mad at me for arguing why Justin Dean should be on this roster. And my answer is really simple. He's the only guy who can play plus defense in center field. And if you want to give the Dodgers like defensive strength in the outfield, that's how you do it. You move Andy Pages to a corner and you put Justin Dean in center field. Everybody saw him make one play and he didn't make it. He dropped the ball on a diving catch. I understand that. Clearly the organization has seen more than one play out of Justin Dean. So they have more information than I do about how good he is in center field and have decided he is worth it. So were you surprised? Like, where are you at on Justin Dean? He seems to be the most polarizing guy. And I don't want Justin Dean ever hitting. I want to make that clear. But if they are going to reshape the defense in the outfield late in the game they are winning, Justin Dean makes more sense to me than Call does or Ha-Seong Kim.
So for me, I'm whether Dean or, like, if you're choosing Dean maybe instead of Call, like Dean and Call to me are just a little bit redundant from the from the standpoint. And I know Alex Call, I mean, hey, there's a decent chance maybe he's in the lineup for game 1 because of his home runs against Christopher Sanchez, and maybe Muncy, he starts off on the bench. I know the Dodgers Dave Roberts has publicly said that Muncy's not, like, they don't view him as a platoon. There have been times though where it appears that they sort of platoon him a little bit. So if Call is start, like, I guess, like, famous
Call's
last words
start over Kike?
Kike would be at third base.
Oh, you're saying Call? That would be. Yeah, you would have Angry Jeff if Muncy is out of the lineup for Alex Call.
I'm not saying I would do that. I could just kind of see, like, at least a scenario, just because Muncy's, has some struggles recently.
Or is it Alex Call over Tommy Edman and Miguel Rojas, and then Kike's playing second base?
Perhaps, yeah, that could be. Yeah,
that you could talk me into.
That could be it as well. But still, going back to the original point, for me, Dean and Call are a little bit redundant. And from the standpoint, like, I don't think you need both. Not that they literally do the same thing. Like, I think Dean is better defensively and obviously more speed. Call, a little bit better bat than Dean.
Yeah.
But the odds of, needing both of those guys, to me, like, isn't necessarily high.
Yeah.
Hesung Kim, Tommy Edmonds' ankle, like that seems to be a problem. And sure, you're probably going to Kike and or Rojas at second base before Kim.
Yeah.
But if you do that, and you get into late game situations where maybe different things have happened, and you don't want Tommy Edman playing the field, like you need your insurance policy in Kim. So I'm fine with him, sticking around on the roster and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean the call Dean one, again, I don't have a strong preference over it. Like I don't think one should be in definitively over the other. I just don't know if you need both of them.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely on that. And I've had Call off of both of my roster predictions. So we're 0 for 2. Maybe we just keep taking Alex Call off of the roster, and at some point we'll get it right. But I'm with you. I think they're redundant. And I think Justin Dean offers the two things that are more valuable, which is center field defense and speed. Because I've said this. I know what his batting average looks like. I've seen Alex Call take some swings. I don't want Alex Call taking at bats in this series. So I think Alex Call has been consistently off of the roster for me. I believe Anthony had Alex Call off of the roster as well. It sounds like Scott may have had Alex Call off of the roster. Maybe he had him on. I can't tell based on the comments in the chat. But yeah, so, and again, I think it just circles back to put a bow on this conversation as a whole. I think it circles back to all of the off days in the bullpen, and the Dodgers are looking and saying, would we rather have a reliever we're almost never, like most likely never going to use? Oh, Scott's got Alex Call in the lineup today. Oh, man, I hope not. Or is it going to be a bench bat that like has the opportunity to be a pinch runner or defensive replacement or something like that? So I think they ended up looking at that calculus, looking at the number of lefties they had, looking at a guy who's surprisingly going to be available out of the bullpen tonight, and said, with Ohtani, we have 12 relievers, which, by the way, like the Cubs released their roster, they only have 11 pitchers. So the Dodgers don't even have the least number of pitchers available. With all the off days, they're going to make it work. So we'll see. Again, Robleski didn't get used in the wild card. Enriquez did, probably lost his spot. I'm curious, Matt, on that one. Do you think Enriquez lost his spot based on how poorly he pitched in wild card game 1? Or do you think they kind of had this mapped out of like, we're going to get to matchup wise, we're going to get to Kershaw and Bonda, and he needs to like do something special?
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, if they had used him and, I don't know, he strikes out the side type thing, or he goes back to backs, like if he needed to be used in both games and it was, perfect appearances both of those times, like maybe he really they rethink everything. But I do think like if Kershaw and Dave telegraphed this from the very beginning, like there was no surprise. Like the workout day for the wild card series, he said, if we advance, Kershaw's on it. And then before game 1, when they were discussing, why Bonda got left off of the wild card round, he said, if we advance, he's on it. So those were clear. So like they clearly, like they were mapping things out, like, okay, this is our group for now. But if we go again, if Enriquez was lights out in the wild card round, whether 1 or 2 games that he pitched in, maybe they rethink it. Maybe they do take off, Call and or Dean or Kim and go with the extra reliever that we were just discussing. And at that point, it's, kind of Enriquez still making it with Bonda and Kershaw. But I feel like for the most part, he was probably earmarked for coming off this round.
Ivan with the super chat, Kershaw over Robleski, wild bias aside, what is the reason here? I would start by saying I had both of these guys on the roster, and I obviously they chose Kershaw. They did not choose Robleski. I would have chosen Robleski over a bench bat. We don't need to rehash all of that. I just think for me, Matt, after watching the wild card series, and again, this isn't a Kershaw over Robleski conversation for me. I just think after watching guys feel like the moment was way too big for them and not be able to throw strikes, those are two things I think I can count Clayton Kershaw being able to do in relief for the Dodgers. So that's one piece. The second piece, we're going to talk about how Tyler Glasnow might be available out of relief for the Dodgers tonight. And is there a world where Tyler Glasnow comes into game 1 and pitches well enough to where they go back to him for a second inning or maybe even multiple innings and then don't want him pitching in game 4? And so Kershaw is just sitting there as like, he can start game 4 if you need him to after tonight. Like those are the two things. One is I trust him in big spots. The moment's not going to be too big. And second, he is your break glass in case of emergency, can start a game and give you length if you need it.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I know that this like what's to say that it's Kershaw over, like, why isn't it? I get Ivan just to kind of, not poke a hole, but like what's to say it wasn't Bonda over Robleski? Like, how do we know? Like, there isn't necessarily, I get Like, and all three of them are lefties. So it's not
Yeah.
like it's very clearly like Kasparius replaced Enriquez and now Kershaw's replacing
Yeah.
Robleski. I guess if you want to profile them a little, maybe that's where this is coming from, where Robleski's more of can be a little bit, multiple inning thing. And that's what you would probably expect from Kershaw. I do agree with you. I think some of the versatility, the experience, and I think the experience, and sure, like Ivan, like you doesn't seem like you're happy with it, and maybe other people won't be, but the reality is it's Clayton Kershaw. And I know that leading up to the playoffs, there was this debate over, is he going to be on the roster? Is he not going to be on the roster? And I sort of approached it from the standpoint, like, I wasn't sure if the Dodgers would, kind of quote unquote do a potentially disrespectful thing of leaving him off and they did for the wild card round, and it worked out. And so now, he's back. And to your point, I think with how they want to possibly use Glass now, what it would mean for the rotation, going forward type thing, like Kershaw's a little bit more of an insurance blanket than Robleski is.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate the super chat, Ivan. Let's talk rotation, because the Dodgers have also announced what we expected and predicted. Ohtani, Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow is the 1 through 4 plan for the Dodgers. I would say no surprises there based on rest days. We've beat it to death. I think the fact that Snell and Yamamoto, you get them into games as quickly as you possibly can, which in this case is games 2 and 3. And then Glasnow slides into 4. Ohtani would be available to come back in game 5. The two interesting nuggets here, Matt. The first is, we've referenced it, Tyler Glasnow available out of the bullpen in game 1. The Phillies had been talking about this on their side. Hey, whoever pitches they had game 3. Whoever their game 3 starter was going to be available in the bullpen game 1, they said. For the Dodgers, it's Glasnow in game 4. How confident would you be in Tyler Glasnow coming out of those gates in the 7th or 8th or 9th inning of a 2 or 3 run game? Because clearly he's like, these are their 4 best players on the pitching side of things. Like, these are their 4 best pitchers. We just haven't seen Glasnow ever do it coming out of the bullpen. That's the part that scares me. The flip side is, if it's Glasnow compared to like 80% of the guys out there, I'd probably feel better. So I'm totally conflicted on how I would feel about Glasnow coming out of the pen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be fine. I wouldn't be fully confident, just because, yes, to your point, like it's still a starter going into a relief role, and as much as they try to approach it similarly, like it is a different dynamic. But yeah, I mean, again, as you mentioned, like the Dodgers bullpen has been shaky, and so there aren't 3-4 guys in there that you would say, hey, we trust these relievers to really lock things down. We don't have to necessarily turn to our rotation. I honestly, though, might be more concerned with what it does to Glasnow moving forward. Like, I know that basically they're approaching this because today would be the day that Glasnow throws his bullpen session to get ready for his start.
Right.
And so the line of thinking, just in case people aren't fully aware, not that I'm trying to mansplain this to anybody by any means, but the line of thinking is, instead of throwing, that bullpen session before game 1, just do it in the game, like be available for the game. And sure, like that makes sense, but like the adrenaline, the stakes, like, are completely different. And so yeah, I'm always like a little leery of, hey, like, oh, it's the same thing. Like, instead of, going out 2 hours before this game starts, we're just going to have him pitch the 7th inning instead tonight. So fine. Like, I just, broadly speaking, have, some general apprehension to that.
Yeah.
My bigger concern would be, like, if he does that now, like I said, the adrenaline and all that stuff is different. Like, what does it mean then if he's starting game 4? Like, is that where maybe we see some drop off because he didn't just throw a bullpen session a few days ago? It was like he was in the middle of a potentially, 1-run game, 2-run game, right, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, like I said, the Phillies are going to have their game 3 starter available. Glasnow would be the game 4 starter. So he'll have an extra day of recovery compared to if the Phillies go this route. But what's interesting is you look up and down the bullpen for the Dodgers. They don't have very many right-handed pitchers. Like, it's Blake Trinan, it's Emmett Sheehan, and it's Roki Sasaki. And that's it. And we talked about this. Kyle Schwarber is very good against right-handed pitchers, but he's worse against righties than he is against lefties. Trey Turner is good against righties, but he's worse against righties than he is against lefties. Harper is better against righties. So if Schwarber comes up in a big spot and you need to go to the bullpen, chances are you're going to want a righty there if you can. And so Blake Trinan, I think, is going to be, he might be the Kyle Schwarber killer in this series as a righty. Maybe Roki Sasaki, but like, I would trust Glasnow more than Emmett Sheehan,
yeah,
and less than Blake Trinan, and Roki Sasaki. I think that's my pecking order of righties in the series. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's probably about fair. And again, like, and we're gonna get into the Ohtani. So like, it could be that Glass now maybe needs to be a bridge to the rest of those guys, and so not so much the seventh, eighth inning, ninth inning guy, but maybe he's the fifth or sixth, depending on what happens with Ohtani type thing. And again, like he was available. Glass now was available out of the bullpen for the wild card series, and they never went to him.
Yeah,
obviously it helped that Snell and Yamamoto both pitched deep into the game, and then at that point, the Dodgers felt like our bullpen should be able to easily finish these up. But yeah, I mean I agree more with that confident, like with that rankings.
Yeah, and I mean the last piece to me is, again, let's say they go to Tyler Glass now in like the eighth inning or something like that. Like it's a 2-run game, the matchup is what they want, and they go to Glass now, and he cruises through the eighth. And then Dave Roberts is sitting there and he's saying, okay, I have two options. I can just throw this guy back out there for the ninth, knowing that he probably kills the chances that he's going to be able to start game 4 for me, but I have Clayton Kershaw sitting right there. Or I can take Tyler Glass now out of the game and go to insert other reliever here, whether it's Roki or whether it's Vesia or whoever. If you're sitting in that spot and you've watched Glass now go get 3 outs, but sending him back out there would cost you him starting game 4, I'm curious what you would do.
I would have to. It would depend on who. So you're saying to finish the game, right? Like we're
finish
saying,
the game. Just be like, hey, we've seen this guy. He's on the mound. He's pitching well. He's throwing strikes. We're going to just try and go get game 1, knowing that it means Kershaw's going to have to start game 4.
I would have to know who's coming up for the Phillies in the bottom of the ninth and what the Dodgers, like if the Dodgers are winning 4-0.
Yeah.
And it's, maybe the middle of the Phillies lineup, not quite the bottom. Like, yeah, I think you think about it because you bank the win, like you just bank this win and you figure out the rest later. If it's 8-2 and it's this, 6, 7, 8 guys coming up, like I probably trust maybe Sasaki if you haven't used him at that point, or Trinan if he hasn't been in at that point for some reason, or even Banda, like any a lefty that maybe you have confidence in. Yeah, I think it'll have to be kind of some feel and some eye test and some gut feeling there to make a decision like that. But if a win is there for the taking, like yes, I think you sort of not all hands on deck because it's not game 5, but you do you maybe get a little bit more aggressive. And again, a lot of it needs to be. Dave Roberts has said during the wild card series, I forgot at what point it was. It might have been before game 2. That he can't just necessarily go, which was a little ironic because then his decisions I feel like go against what he said. But he said you can't just go with name pedigree type thing and pass. Like you have to look at how guys are pitching right now, and the bullpen has been shaky.
Totally. Ivan asks, what are your thoughts on the Phillies seeing Shohei twice in 3 weeks? And hey, if it goes 5, it might be 3 times in 5 weeks. The good news is the first time went pretty well, Matt.
Yeah. So the edge, if you will, went to Ohtani certainly in that Dodger Stadium start. I mean, he was impressive. He was dominant. Everybody was up in arms that he was getting taken out of a no-hitter at that point. And Dodgers bullpen, sounds like a broken record, but they ended up blowing that game. It could go both ways. I mean, I think the Phillies have hitters that are good enough, talented enough to make an adjustment. And like, am I expecting Ohtani to throw 5 no-hit innings again? No. Is Ohtani good enough to still, limit the Phillies lineup? Yes. Like he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. You have some of the best hitters in baseball. And so it's for it to be, I'm not anticipating it being one-sided, either way this time around.
Yeah. And the other note on Ohtani, by the way, which I think we all assumed, but has been confirmed by Dave Roberts, is that there are no restrictions on Shohei Ohtani moving forward. The bumpers on the bowling lane have been taken off. The kids' gloves have been removed from Dave Roberts' hands. And while he's only thrown 91 pitches in a game so far this season, they say, I see that smile. You don't believe them, Matt, that the kid gloves are off?
I mean, sure, they're off in theory, but this is Ohtani's first playoff start, adrenaline and all that. Like as much as he's shown us time and time again, he's not human. Yeah. He is human, like at the end of the day. And to expect Ohtani, and not that Dave Roberts said this specifically, but I just want to temper expectation. Like, I don't think Ohtani's going to go out there and throw 7 innings in his first playoff start. I think if he gets through 6 relatively comfortably, I think the Dodgers will take that and figure out, okay, how are we piecing this together at this point? Like and so that's from that standpoint, like, I don't think this is a scenario where all of a sudden he's going to get pushed into, throwing 100+ pitches in a playoff game.
Yeah, and that's where I guess I would differ. I think if he's pitching well and the situation is not like an overwhelming one, and it's the end of this, if he's at 5 2/3 and he's thrown 95 pitches, I think they're going to let him ride it out. And like I think I could see a world where he throws more than 100 pitches. I love like the comments where it's like, dude, they're not going to let him go 9 complete. Well, thank you very much for that. Correct. Kid gloves are off does not mean he's going to throw 180 pitches in this game, but 91 is his current max. I think he throws more than that. That's my take. Like, I think 100 pitches is not out of the realm of possibilities. Game situation, all of that. How stressful are those pitches? Of course. But I think if he has 5 no-hit innings in this game, he's not going to be coming out in the 6th, which that's how they handled it with kid gloves on. I think it would be different this time. If he's got 91 pitches through 5 and he's dominant, I think he comes back out for the 6th.
Yes, I agree with that. I like the efficiency thing is like if he's dominant, then you assume he's also efficient, right? And so to your point, yes, I think the innings at that, like, I think 6, if he's at 95 pitches through 6, I don't know if they have him go back out there for the 7th. Maybe he faces one more batter type thing, but I think, 100, 105 pitches is probably, kind of a soft limit or target that they might have in mind.
I would hate to be the guy who has to do the math on counting outs for the Dodgers if Ohtani's through 6 and you're debating sending him back out for the 7th, and you just go look at that roster and you're asking yourself the question that Pumpkin Bird is asking is, what is Tanner Scott's role in this series? Please don't say leverage. Like, you're looking at Ohtani and you're saying, well, if we don't send him back out there, we might need a couple outs from Tanner Scott tonight. It's like, okay, we'll go to 140. But the Tanner Scott thing's interesting because on one hand, he didn't pitch in the first series. But you could also make the case that's because there were no leverage outs, really, that they ended up needing, other than like a couple moments where they had a guy stuck in there and he needed to get him out no matter what. The way they used Vesia in game 1 suggested to me that Tanner Scott was going to be a leverage option if they needed it. What do you think? Dave had said, hey, it's not about how much money you make or the name on the back of your jersey. And yet, ... it sure seems like that's how they've treated Tanner Scott all year.
Tanner Scott is rested for the NLDS, I think is the best way to look at this. Yeah, I mean, I think he is still one of their trusted options for a leverage situation. Is he number 1 on that list? Not necessarily. Is it a stretch to say he's 3rd? I don't think so. Like, I think Trinan is probably 1 at this point. I think Sasaki is 2.
Well, here's a good question. Ram Lakers asks, who are your top 3 relievers to pitch the 9th with the 1-run lead in this series? You're kind of going, you've got Roki and Trinan 1 and 2. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So,
and I'm with you on that.
So those guys are up. And then I think it becomes a conversation of, is it
Vesia,
maybe Vesia's 3rd. Vesia might have like his, even though he was shaky, in that wild card game.
Yeah.
I think he probably has a hold on 3rd.
But why was he coming into an 8-0 game in game 1 of the wild card if he's your leverage guy?
So I think there's 2 ways to look at that. And I think you brought up he's somebody who feeds off of adrenaline, and that's not the type that wasn't conducive to that type of situation. To the point the discussion we were just having about, hey, do you push Glass now? Like, you go get the win. And I think it was more of, yes, it's 8-0. Let's just not let anything kind of sprout up here. Like, keep the Reds at bay, get through the 8th inning, and then, you have the 9th inning, and you can use, maybe at that point it's Tanner Scott or whoever it was going to be. And obviously things didn't go that way.
Yeah.
So
it did end up being, that's fair. It could have been, hey, Vesia for the 8th, Trinan for the 9th, and then this game is over with.
Yeah. So a little strange, sure, but it's a short series. Like, anything if the Dodgers lose that game for some reason,
yeah,
you're all of a sudden you're facing elimination the next night. And so I think it was more of like, we're going to get this win. We don't want to mess around, and it backfired.
Yeah, I think we agree. I think it's Roki, Trinan, and Vesia are the 3 guys at the top of my trust tree. Where I think it gets interesting is how much they decide to trust guys like Tanner Scott and Clayton Kershaw. I think those are the wild cards where nobody is going to be shocked if it's a leverage spot and they go to Scott or they go to Kershaw. I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying I don't see a world where Bonda all of a sudden is getting leverage. Like, I don't see a world where even Emmett Sheehan after the first outing is necessarily a leverage guy unless they've already burned through Roki and Trinan and those types of things. But I think Kershaw and Tanner Scott are the wild cards where you could make a case they should be last on the totem pole. But knowing Dave Roberts, he might have them higher than us.
Yeah, and I think some of it boils down to, again, like how game one sort of unfold. Like, let's say, Ohtani gets you through 6 innings, or 5 1/3, and then you have a reliever finish the 6, or 5 2/3, and you have somebody finish the 6. Like, if it's a 4-1 game, the Dodgers are winning. Do you go to Clayton Kershaw for a 3 inning save at that point? Like,
yeah,
and then you save Glass, like that Glass now is then your game 4 start. I mean, that's where I think I guess credit to the Dodgers with how they did assemble this pitching staff. Like, there is some flexibility. There are different options different routes that they could end up taking.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to Back asks, did they fix Blake Trinan's mechanics, and can Tanner Scott do that? I've said, like, chips on the table. I'm just going to believe in Blake Trinan, and you could tell me I'm dumb for it or irrational, and maybe I'll look stupid at some point. But Tanner Scott, I mean, we haven't seen it. Like, some people have said, hey, Jeff, why do you believe that about Trinan and not Scott, when Scott has been awesome in the postseason, just against the Dodgers, or not for the Dodgers at the very least? And I'm like, you know what? Fair. I've seen it with Trinan. I haven't personally seen it with Scott. So maybe Tanner Scott just figures it out. Adrenaline pumping. The fastball gets a little more life, and the moment's not too big for him. I don't know. Like, any confidence in that kind of thing in the same way with Trinan that you have with Scott?
Not necessarily, and that is an interesting question. I think with that boils, it's probably just and I don't want to put words in your mouth or speak on both of our behalves. Maybe some of it is like confirmation bias type thing. Like, we saw Blake trying to do it for the team that we cover, and so it feels different. I think maybe with Tanner Scott too, like, he did have a stretch of 4 or 5 scoreless appearances. Like, I know, like, we kind of tweeted about, like, sort of tongue in cheek, but like, there were walks, and like, it wasn't dominant type thing. And I think we've seen Trinan kind of at least piece it together, whereas with Scott, it just hasn't really clicked for whatever reason. Like, it's been 1 or 2 quality appearances this year, and then he regresses type thing. And so maybe that's why there's some doubting him and not Trinan. I don't know.
El Cool Arrow says, why no Enriquez? Who else throws gas besides Roki? Honestly, Robleski was one of the other harder throwers. He's off. The Enriquez one is very simple. The guy can't throw strikes. So if you can't throw strikes in the postseason, the moments are only going to get bigger, from Dodger Stadium against the Reds to at Philadelphia in the NLDS. Like, I personally had no confidence in him coming out of that. And again, the stuff on him is way better than on Kershaw, but I'll just take my chances that at least Kershaw is going to put the ball in the zone, and we'll see what happens from there. David, are we worried that Trinan has been responsible for 3 of the 4 losses to the Phillies this season? I am not, because it's Blake Trinan, but I did have somebody on Twitter, Gian, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, point out that Robleski was the guy who got destroyed by the Phillies when they blew Shohei Ohtani's 5 no-hit innings. So it's possible that part of the reason Robleski got left off was they just don't like the matchup of Robleski against the Phillies, given that history. And I could see why you would look at Robleski and say, this is a deal breaker for us, and Trinan and say, this isn't a deal breaker for us. So maybe that's part of it, Matt.
Yeah, that's a good point. I had forgotten the exact order of the collapse that the Dodgers had against the Phillies. With Trinan, sure, like, that could give you some pause, but also the other side of this coin, like, as Dave Roberts just said, like, these are the guys that the Dodgers have, and Blake Trinan is somebody who has proven that he's capable of pitching in big moments. He's obviously done it for them as recently as a year ago, and he hasn't looked. I forgot what wild card game did he get into?
Trinan?
Yeah, was it
he got into both?
One? Oh, that's right. He did back. That's right.
He got 1, 2, 3 inning in the first, and then he got him out of a jam in the second.
So maybe for whatever reason, like, Trinan's mechanics are better now. I know we just had the super chat, are better now than they were, when they played the Phillies in September. I think also there is something to, especially with the veteran pitcher, especially with somebody like Blake Trinan who's done it. There is something there. I believe that there is flipping a proverbial switch. I know I've been on here before and said, like, it's something not just baseball specific. I think in sports in general. And I think we're sort of seeing it with this Dodgers team. And it started, not in the playoffs, but kind of as they got close to the postseason.
Hawaiian Kira asks, predictions for the series. Is this more or less the World Series matchup? I wouldn't say World Series. It feels these are the 2 best teams in the NL, I think, pretty comfortably. And the odds would tell you these are 2 of the best 3 teams in Major League Baseball. I'm going Dodgers in 4. I think they win one of the first 2 in Philadelphia. They win both at home, would be my prediction. So give me Dodgers in 4.
Yeah, I got
Don't
put on
bring balance, Matt. We don't care about your balance, okay?
I got put on the spot with Greg and Marcus and Parker yesterday. Like I said on the Blue Review, and I went Phillies in 5.
Oh my gosh.
But I don't like. I'm not sure. I'm going to try to articulate this the best I can. Like, my gut is sort of telling me that the Dodgers find a way to pull this out because of the talent, because of what we've seen from the starting rotation. But logically, I don't know, like, if the bullpen can be trusted enough to pull it off. Like, you could get 7, or like, I'm not anticipating blowout games the way we kind of saw against the Reds, right?
Totally.
So you can get 7, maybe 8 innings from your starting pitcher on a given night, perhaps. There's still that 1 or 2 innings from the bullpen that we need to see. And maybe it is, recency bias and concern of seeing them struggle in the 8th innings against the Reds and kind of, carrying that over. So take that for what it is. My gut is saying the Dodgers find a way to pull it out. Logically, I feel like the Phillies win. So
You're
how
getting
you want to decipher that? Go ahead.
Appropriately booed. That's how I'm going to decipher that. Bringing balance to the show as usual. Laker Toby says Ohtani goes 5, maybe 6. Kershaw in the 6th. Glasnow in the 7th. Trine in the 8th. Roki the 9th. Scott only comes in with a big lead. I think I'm going to give Ohtani 6. So if Ohtani goes 6 and you need to get 9 outs in a perfect scenario, and again, the hard part with like this guy gets a 7th, 8th, 9th, you're going to get a lefties for the bottom of the order. So I don't think it's going to be Glasnow, Roki, and Scott. Like, I think Vesia is going to be in the mix somewhere, or maybe it's Scott, or maybe it's Bonda. Somebody's getting like the guys. Once you get past Schwarber and Trey Turner and Bryce Harper, like you're going to want lefties for basically everybody else. So there's going to be more lefties mixed in. But the question to me is like Glasnow is available. How eager are they to use him? Like, is it, hey, we're going to get this guy in no matter what. And so if Ohtani gives us 7 somehow, then we're going to throw him in either the 8th or the 9th. Or is it like, hey, if we can get 7 from Ohtani, then Tyler Glasnow, hey, take the night off. We're going to try and get 6 outs with Roki and Treinen and Vesia and Kershaw and figure out the rest later. That, I think, is going to be the most interesting decision Dave Roberts has to make.
Yeah, I agree. And the other interesting layer to this, too, is if Glasnow doesn't pitch tonight and theoretically he's not then pitching until game 4, like that's a pretty long layoff for him that he's gone. And his last time pitching was shortened so that he would be available out of the bullpen. So like, is that part of their equation as well? Like, we need to get him. Let's say Ohtani can go 5 2/3. Do we have Glasnow pitch that, face that, get that final out in the 6th just to get him out there? Let him pitch. If he gives up a hit or walks a guy and ends up being 2 batters or whatever, and then get him out of the game, like rather than not having him pitch for that extended period until, a potential game 4 start. Like, I don't know how much they might weigh that in, but just from me thinking like outsider's perspective, like from a Russ standpoint, like maybe you need to get him into this game. But I'm inclined to believe that it's not a scenario where, okay, Glasnow absolutely has to pitch tonight.
I hope so. Because it's like, hey, I don't care about if he needs to pitch today or not. Like, we're not experimenting in game 1 of the NLDS, like he feels like he's available if necessary, but a couple things have to go sideways in order for him to be available. That would be my hope. And maybe it's not 12 things, but maybe it's like 2 things. If Roki struggles or Treinen struggles or Ohtani doesn't get past the 5th, then Glasnow's available. That would be my hope. One other topic we should touch on quickly before we get to a few questions, if people have them, is let's talk Will Smith. He's on the roster. There are still 3 catchers on the roster. Dave Roberts has said he is available to catch, took live batting practice again yesterday. We didn't really get any updates about like how he came out of the first live batting practice he took before the wild card series. He was not needed in the wild card series because the games were such blowouts. It is interesting. We talked about this on Sunday night, Matt. It's interesting with all of the days off. They play Saturday, off day Sunday, Monday, off day Tuesday. So do you think there's any world where Will Smith is the starting catcher in game 1, knowing that he has a full off day built in no matter what? And you could theoretically give him 3 full off days between game 1 and game 3 and then get him back in the lineup.
No, I don't think he's at the point of being able to catch in games. I think even, he was on the wild card roster. I think even that was like, hey, our season is on the line in game 2 or 3, and we need a pinch it. Like, we need you to take an at bat. Like, I think it needed to be that type of scenario to see him. I think we're a little bit I think the Dodgers are in a little bit better position with him now, whereas like it doesn't need to be that dire to use him in a game.
Okay.
I would be shocked if he's starting behind the plate tonight. I think maybe like a game 3 he can catch, and then you give him off for game 4 if the series goes that far, and if you extend it to a game 5, then he's had the 2 days off to then be ready for your season's on the line at that point if you're playing a game 5. But yeah, I'm doubtful. I mean, he did do the hit. I was there for the wild card round for that workout. He did do some hitting. He did do some running. There wasn't any catching and throwing involved. And that's obviously a big part of playing catcher.
Yeah. And the throwing, it seems like, is the piece that they're most worried about. Obviously it's his throwing hand. So the actual mechanics of catching a baseball, they don't seem all that concerned about. It's as stupid as it sounds, it's the fact that every single pitch that gets thrown involves the catcher throwing the ball back to the pitcher. It's not taking 4 swings or hitting the ball, potentially making contact 4 times. It's the throwing. It is just interesting in this case because it's all lefties for the Phillies. Like, this is offensively the type of matchup where you can't really get cute and say, well, who cares? We scored 8 runs, 9 runs in the first round. It's like, you're going to need every run possible. And with all lefties on the mound, it's like, man, it hurts to not have Will Smith's bat in there, as good as Rortvedt has been productively in the wild card round.
Yeah, and look, I know that like we've discussed Ben Rortvedt, we poked fun at you over Benny Rowe. Like, I'm not disillusioned to think like there's clearly an offensive drop off there, especially when you layer in the tough left-handed starters that the Phillies are going to be throwing at the Dodgers. I think that it's just an unfortunate reality. Like, injuries happen, and it's just it's the Dodgers aren't strategically choosing to potentially sit Will Smith instead of having him play catcher. Like, I think he just physically is not at the point yet of being able to do that. Forget about the throwback to the pitcher. If he really can't throw, what's going to happen if the Phillies get anybody with some semblance of speed on first base? Like, they're certainly going to test him, and then like that becomes an issue.
Yeah. And look, here's Will Smith being my guy. Here's my optimism. Everybody told me he was not going to be on the wild card roster. He comes back miraculously, warrior in the live batting practice. I mean, even Fabian Ardaya was on our show, and he's like, hey, it's all going to matter if he takes live batting practice. But Ardaya didn't sound optimistic. I don't think the Dodgers were optimistic that he was going to swing a bat and then take live BP and then be on the roster. It happened. So we're crossing our fingers that our guy's healthy. And I would just love to see him get. And again, I think game 1 is an interesting spot because of the number of days off and the way you can recover, and just to see what happens there. So we'll see. We'll see if that's the case. Obviously, Rortvedt has been playing well enough where it doesn't feel like he's forcing their hand. But I think the Dodgers are not under the illusion that like there's not a huge drop off between those two guys. If Will Smith can play, is physically capable, I think they're going to want him in that lineup one way or another. So, all right, let's get to some questions, all caps questions. We'll throw that in the chat, and then we'll get to a few of those. We got about 5 or 6 more minutes to break this stuff down. By the way, if you haven't seen it yet, shameless plug, as our guy Matt said, I got a chance to sit down with Rob Hill yesterday. It posted last night. He is the Dodgers pitching coordinator, and he was one of the guys working with Roki Sasaki in Arizona that, to say it as clearly as possible, basically got this guy right. And I asked him, how the heck did you do this? This guy was not on the radar 4 to 6 weeks ago. Now he's the best relief pitcher we have. Awesome interview with Rob Hill. So go ahead and check that out and get to that. Also, of course, make sure you are subscribed right here to the Dodger Blue YouTube page. We are live every night after post-game shows. Blake will be on tonight hosting. We will be back on Monday. We will be back on Wednesday, all the time. We've also got interviews that we have scattered in with opposing team people, national people, local people. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. If you're a podcast person, Apple, Spotify, Google, the DodgerHeads podcast, we would love to have you join us. Again, we think we've got, I shouldn't say I think we've got a long runway of Dodger games in front of us. Matt over here might think we got a week left of Dodgers baseball, but either way, we hope you'll join us. It's been a lot of fun so far. So, okay, let's get to some of these questions. Rod asks, which of the recovering starters do you think will make a significant impact next season? Do you see them trading any of them? Too many starters. So we're talking about River Ryan, Gavin Stone, I would say are the two big ones. I would mix in like Emmett Sheehan's obviously a part of that group. Justin Robleski could easily be stretched back out. Ben Kasparius could easily be stretched back out.
Sasaki.
So Roki Sasaki could easily be stretched back out. So there's 6. And by the way, the 4 guys pitching in this series are all under contract for next season. So that's 10 starting pitchers. They've got guys like Landon Knack who couldn't crack it this year. So there's a lot. That Kyle Hurt could be stretched back out to be a starter. I mean, there's options. So I would say,
Miller.
yeah. What's that?
Bobby Miller.
No, I didn't say him on purpose. That we left him to the could. Yeah, okay. To be fair, I was using the language of could technically be stretched out. Yes, Bobby Miller could technically be stretched out. Yes, I think they're going to trade some of these guys at some point. I've joked with somebody like the Dodgers might go out and sign somebody. Like there's no such thing as too much starting pitching. So I could see them packaging a couple guys to try and go get an outfielder if they don't want to pay for Kyle Tucker. But I mean, I think. And we haven't even talked about the prospects. Like Jackson Ferris is a top 100 prospect. This Serwinowski guy they traded for in the Benny Rortvedt trade. I've had people that are like, that guy's a dude. So just heads up, that guy's a dude. So who knows? If I had to pick one, man, River Ryan and Gavin Stone are the two that I think like those guys were like dudes before they got hurt. So how they come back is big, but give me Ryan and Stone.
Yeah, I think those are good bets. I wouldn't be shocked if there's some sort of trade, but also, as you mentioned, look like this, and the Dodgers hit that point this season where they sort of started to run out of starting pitchers, and then everybody got healthy, in time now for the playoffs. A lot of those guys are still really young and under team. Like there's not necessarily a clock ticking where, hey, trade this guy or you're losing him to free agency type thing. So like, especially with Stone and River Ryan both coming off surgeries and not really pitching this. I don't think, did Stone have a surgery this year or was it late last year? I forgot. Whatever the case was.
Yeah, it was late last year because I remember we were talking to him at spring training and we kind of were the first to break the news of what exactly happened with his shoulder.
So like they'll just be coming back. Like they might probably will spend next year primarily in the minors, and so it's like a rehab year type thing. Like you don't need to move any of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Eden asks, I know Roki has looked confident. Do you think Citizens Bank shakes him? I don't. This to me feels like a guy who the microscope has been on him for so long. And so that's why I'm not worried, Matt. Are you?
No, I'm not too worried either. And he already pitched there. I know it's not the playoffs, but he started there. Let me see. I'm pulling it up back in April, early April. So it was his third start of the season. He went 4 innings, 3 hits, only 1 run allowed, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. So again, I know that the environment, even at Dodger Stadium, changes dramatically for the playoffs, and I'm sure Philly fans are the same way, so it'll be more intense. But I mean, yes, to your point, like you layer in Sasaki's upbringing and the pressure he has already faced and things like that, I think he'll be fine.
Back to back wants to know, can you predict when Kershaw pitches in this series? I'm going to say game 1, and here's why I'm going to say game 1. I think there's a chance that game 2, 3, and 4, they can get 7 innings out of their starter. Like Ohtani, if you told me one of these guys is going to go like less than 6 innings, I think Ohtani would be the obvious pick. And I think with all the days off, Kershaw's not going to be in like their top 4 relievers that they want to use in any of these. And so if he pitches, I would say game 1 just because Ohtani's pitching.
Yeah, I agree. I think games 1 and 4 are probably just because of other factors are the most likely scenarios of when we'll see him.
Yeah. Hawaiian Kira, do you agree with Fangrass cheesesteaks versus French dip? If not, what is the LA food? I see why they would do French dip because it's like basically the same mechanics of a sandwich with just some changes. But I mean, the chat had this. Like the LA food has to be Mexican food, right? Like it's tacos or burritos or something.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I mean, if to Hawaiian's Kira, if I'm needing to pick between these two specifically, a Philly cheesesteak is way better than a French dip sandwich, in my opinion.
I love both, and I completely agree with you. Norm wants to know, if the Dodgers lose game 1, what is your panic level on a scale of 1 to 10? Do you want to answer this one, Matt?
I mean, I cover the team, so I wouldn't have I'm an objective reporter. I wouldn't have a panic scale. But if you're asking me what I think fans should be at, maybe like a 6, because if you win game 2, then it's like you kind of split on the road, like that you're mainly hoping to split on the road.
Considering my anxiety levels at a 10 when it's 0-0 and game 1 hasn't even started yet, like a loss in game 1 is not going to change that. So yeah, of course, if I'm staring down the barrel of a Philly series where the Dodgers need to win 3 out of 4, I'm not going to be feeling good. But for context, I don't feel good in general. Like, so I've told people I don't enjoy the playoffs, the mechanics of watching these games. Like, I just wish I could click fast forward and find out what happens at the end, I think.
So were you stressed during the wild card series?
No, because the first few innings when they're leaving guys on second base, and I'm like, crap, we're doing this all over again. But the beauty of the wild card series was they gave us like 8-0 lead in the first game. I'm like, thank goodness. But I was anxious when the tying runs on deck in game 1 and the tying runs at the plate in game 2, moderately. But like, I think having a big lead calms me down and being up in the series. Like if I'm always doing the math and saying the Dodgers just need to win more games than they lose from here on out, I always feel good about that. But as soon as it's like, crap, we've got to win 3 of the next 4, or we've got to win 4 of the next 5, or 4 of the next 6, that to me is where like I stress. So if the Dodgers could do me a favor and just always be ahead in the series and then also ahead in the game, I would feel a lot better. So
that's fair. That wild card series needed to be just simulated to end after the first game. It was boring.
I think it pretty much was. So that's the good news for us. Men have skin too. That's quite a name. Do you think Ohtani will be affected by the Phillies atmosphere? He's mentioned being nervous about pitching in the playoffs, but again, like Ohtani, as much as we can respect the MLB playoffs, like he closed out a game for his country in the World Baseball Classic. Like I can assure you he has pitched in bigger moments that he will be pitching in tonight. So I'm not worried.
Yeah, I think, and maybe if you can try to give us some context, like if you're asked, like affected to what sense, like intimidated because they're shouting, like no, if affected from like it is still a postseason start for him, it's his first time doing it. Like he said, like there probably will be some nerves. Like sure, maybe his adrenaline is kind of spiking in the first inning type thing. Like that's where I think we'll see him quote unquote affected, but I don't know if that's like specific to being in Philadelphia. Like if he was making his first postseason start at Dodger Stadium, I think we might see something similar. Like I don't think anybody, 5,000 specific fans out of however many are going to be there shouting like you suck, Ohtani. Like I don't think that that's going to affect him type thing.
Yeah. 2 more questions here. Rod asks, question, is it possible Roki could end up a closer long term? I mean, it's definitely possible. They are going to do everything in their power to make him a starting pitcher. If for some reason that doesn't work, I think he could be a closer, but I would not count on it. Sandy Feet, last question here. Who has a better NLDS, Matt? Max Muncy or Trey Turner? It's not a good matchup for Muncy. 3 straight lefties. Basically, he'll see a lefty starting pitcher all 5 games. Trey Turner, batting title for the National League, has been banged up, played at the end of the season, has had a week off. Muncy or Turner, who has a better series?
I guess because, again, I was put on the spot with the ESPN LA guys yesterday. They wanted series prediction and MVP. I went with the Phillies, and I said I think Trey would be the MVP. So between these two, I'll just, for the sake of being consistent, I'll say Trey Turner has a slightly better series than Max Muncy.
I'm going to actually agree with you that it's Trey Turner because I think Trey Turner's really good. And I also just think Max Muncy, it's just not a great setup for him. That said, and I've been on the record with this already, and I know Scott is predicting it, and so this is fun. We can disagree. The idea that Alex Call would play in a game over Max Muncy, like, I get it. Somebody could show me, hey, he's 2 for 10. He has 2 home runs against this guy. Great. Defensive outfielder. Great. I hear all of it. Just say the sentence out loud. I want Alex Call over Max Muncy. Like, just say that sentence out loud 5 times and tell me it doesn't sound crazy to you, because it sounds crazy to me. I know the matchups. I know Muncy's look bad. I know it's lefty-lefty. I know Call's good defensively in the outfield. And again, if it's Call over Edman and Rojas, fine. But like, I don't, in a series where one swing can perpetually change things, and in a series where I want guys that the moment is not too big for them, that can work an at bat, that can work a hitter or a pitcher, that can put the ball in play if I need it. Like in that series, I'm sorry. I want Max Muncy. I trust Max Muncy regardless of everything else.
So you're going, as TQT points out, you're going against your nerd stats here then.
Yes. It's Max Muncy and it's Alex Call. Yes. Again, you can, this is why I say, like, I'm not beholden to simply the numbers. Like Max Muncy, again, and we've seen, I mean, Alex Call, what's his WRC plus been since he came to the Dodgers? Not good.
Yeah.
I mean, I could look it up if you want to buy me some time here.
Yeah, go for it. I'm inclined to agree with you, especially, and I know that won't surprise people because I'm the eye test. Although the eye tests would say that Muncy has struggled against lefties, I do think you Muncy is a guy who's gotten you, who has helped get you there, who has helped get you over the top, who has been through the ringer type thing. And for me, like part of that conversation, I think expands to: do you want like some combination of Muncy, Rojas, Kike, or call Kike Rojas type thing, right? And I'm using second base, third base, left field just to be clear, and because I'm not sure, like Tommy Edman, I mean, maybe he's not in the lineup tonight either, like to start the game as well. I think I'm leaning towards, especially like Rojas he hit well to close out the regular season. He got a hit or two in game 2 of the wild card series, so he's been producing as well. So I think for me, I'm probably taking the cumulative sum of Kike, Rojas, Muncy as opposed to call Kike, Rojas to kind of set your lineup.
Yeah. No, I think it's fair. I pulled up the numbers, so let me just get Muncy here so we can make this even. So Muncy in 2025, 59 weighted runs created plus, so worse than the person pointed out. Alex Call against lefties as a Dodger has a 93 weighted runs created plus. He's sitting 229. As a whole on the Dodgers, lefties and righties, he's a 103 weighted runs created plus. So again, I mean, I'm taking my chances. Like, this is where I think I get accused of looking at the numbers and saying the numbers, that's all that matters. Like, this would be exhibit A for when I'm like, I understand what the numbers are telling me with Alex Call and Max Muncy. I understand that. What the numbers don't quantify is how Alex Call and Max Muncy are going to feel in the moment if it's a big moment. And what I think the difference there is large enough between confidence they're going to have, fear, anxiety, stress. And again, I'm perfectly comfortable potentially being wrong about this. And I hope if Alex Call is in, I hope I get 1,000 angry text messages when he hits a home run or tweets, because I am rooting for the Dodgers. And if Alex Call is in over Muncy and hits a home run, I will be so happy that I was wrong about this. I'm just telling you, when you say Alex Call over Muncy out loud, it sounds crazy.
I do agree. I mean, and again, like I guess it boils down to, you're going to want to, not you specifically, but just, the Dodgers in general, broadly speaking, like you want to lean into kind of the numbers and all that stuff, or are you going to go with, and actually, maybe another thing we also need to mention is Muncy does not appear to be healthy. He nor the Dodgers have provided too many specifics on what's going on, but
yes,
like that could be, I guess that could be
hurt. If Muncy is like legitimately hurt, then sure. Which again, I'm these are all the things I'm sure Scott is taking into account when he says call over Muncy. But if Muncy tells me he's good to go, then I'm just going to take my chances.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's definitely Muncy has said that, and I wouldn't expect anything like you don't get to this level like in the playoffs, especially, and say like, no, like, sorry guys, I can't do it tonight.
Yeah,
but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But Jeff, you're never dodging the allegations of hating cheese and being a nerd, so
it's true.
Doesn't matter.
Hey, don't let facts get in the way of a good story is what I tell people who hate me for those two things. And again, if Call's in and they decide, hey, Rojas and Edman are going to sit this one out and Kike's going to play second base, great. What about if it's Call over Kike?
Oh, I mean, that's not, I don't even think that better not. Come on. Like that can't even be.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Hey,
can we address the Keektober stuff, by the way? K-E-E-K. That's how you spell Keektober.
I agree. We asked everybody before we really unleashed it, and people said just use his name how it's spelled, and it's just pronounced the other way.
I'm sure all the people on this chat are the smart people who voted for K-E-E-K, and all of the Twitter robots voted for K-I-K-E.
We did it on this show. I'm open to changing it.
Let's do it.
But I think also at this point, people know how it's pronounced, and so how it is spelled is irrelevant at this point. The bigger issue is that nickname has started to spread all over the place. And when I first brought it up, I was mocked and ridiculed and told how ridiculous it was. And so
you lost. Yeah. You were fighting an uphill battle with Beltober. See, Beltober is where you lost people. And I think over time, we've begun to see past how bad your first nickname was in this case. And we've begun to accept Keektober. So I'm going to give you credit for coming up with Keektober because I like it.
Hey, well, New York is getting to experience a little Beltober magic now. So I bet you they're enjoying it.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen any Beltober tweets. I'll have to check the timeline. So Folks, we appreciate everybody who hopped in here live with us on a Saturday morning. Go enjoy some college football between now and 3:30 when the Dodgers take on the Phillies. Again, we will be live right here on this channel, Dodger Blue 1958, for a post-game show. So if you are not already, subscribe and ring the notification bell. We'd love to have you join us. As Matt referenced, we have tons of pre-game content for you. We've got press conferences, interviews, all that is up already on the Dodger Blue YouTube page. We've got the interview with Rob Hill breaking down what they tweaked and changed with Roki Sasaki and the moment in the bullpen in Arizona where it seemed like everything clicked. So that's a fun one. Podcast people, Apple, Spotify, Google. And again, DodgerBlue.com if you're a written word person. Tons of great content there breaking down everything that Dave Roberts has said ahead of this one. So enjoy the rest of your morning. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Get ready for that 3:30 first pitch. Go Dodgers. And yes, remember, it's NLDS in 2025. We get it, but guess what? Still freaking champs.